Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the conjunction of Chiron and Mars. Guys, before I begin, don't forget to hit the like button, please. Helps me out a lot. And subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm having a class on Sunday, January 29th. The topic will be retrogrades. I'm going to do a presentation followed by Q&A. So please email me to get on the list if you're not already on it. Okay, so Chiron and Mars. What is Chiron? So Chiron, you probably, if you've been watching any of the other videos, you already know, but if in case you haven't, Chiron is a minor planet in between the orbit of Saturn and Uranus, and it has a weird elliptical orbit that vacillates in between Saturn and Uranus. When it's closer to Libra, when it's around Libra, middle of Libra, it's or close to Saturn, and then extends to Uranus when it's in Aries, right? So it's a weird elliptical orbit. It does have rings. I've heard it's also oddly shaped, and it also has a coma, which is the tail of a comet, but it's not a comet. So it's in between a minor planet, an asteroid, and a comet. And it really defies all definitions, all stereotypes, all boundaries. It's completely unique, quite Uranian in that sense. And I would say even more unique in many ways than Uranus. Truly one of a kind, maverick, if you will. It brings to mind, out of the box sort of uniqueness, caricature, comic book, mythical, legendary beings. The mythology tied to it is equally as unique. Chiron is a centaur, meaning half horse, half human, but he has the full body of a human, and he just has the rear of a horse going out his, butt, basically, which is kind of funny looking. But he was rejected by his mother for that reason. He was so different, so unique that his mother rejected him, because he's not like the other centaurs who have the body of a horse and the torso of a man growing out of it. Not only that, he grew up to be a teacher, a healer, a medicine man, basically a shaman, an astrologer, a wise person. So he's a very evolved and non-aggressive. Like the other centaurs were very animalistic, aggressive, hunters, violent, and he was very peaceful, wise, spiritual, evolved. Right. And then when Hercules came to him for help, because he was very knowledgeable in plants and medicine and medicinal concoctions and whatnot, Hercules asked him to make a poison for an arrow to defeat an enemy, and he did. And Hercules used that poison, and then he got shot in the foot by one of his own poison arrows. Chiron, and then he died, unfortunately. So there's this double wound with Chiron associated of rejection and then a wounding that kills him. But other than that, Chiron is extremely unique, very wise spiritual teacher, astrologer, shamanistic healer type, right? So it's very varied, and it can take different expressions in the chart. That's Chiron. So what is Mars? Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. It's male aggression, male sexuality. It's initiating action. Mars is action. Mars is physical action. It's hot-bloodedness. It's working out. It's, fighting, being, doing things, starting things, initiating any sort of project, new, venture, masculine, protection, muscles, building the body. It's very physical, passionate, aggressive. What else? Those are the main things. It's sort of the male counterpart to Venus, right? The hot-blooded masculine, energy, right? And so when Chiron comes into conjunction with Mars, it tends to make somebody very uniquely passionate. So like you get a lot of musicians and artists and creators with this combination. or it could be just very unique in the things that they do, in their leadership, and in their creative capacity, right? So we'll see many different examples of this, but let's start with Aries. Share my screen. Aries is number one always, right? You have to go with Aries first. And we're going with Tyra Banks. And just for comparison, hold on, let me pull up my little video, just so I know it's all good. Who else has it in Aries? Jared Leto, Tobey Maguire, Paul Newman, Kate Beckinsale, Monica Lewinsky, Brian Austin Green, Heather Graham, Kat Power, and she's a singer in case you don't know who she is, Pete Mondrian, and Mos Def. And guys, there's actually way more in Aries because Mars is in domicile in Aries. So I mean, but I ran out of room to write, but anyway, you get the idea. There's so many people who are famous with Mars and Chiron and Aries. It creates a very unique character, depending on which house Mars is ruling. But anyway, so for Tyra Banks, it's ruling her MC. So it's bonifying her MC, her career. And she's been involved in tons of stuff. She was a model. She founded the model show, America's Next Top Model, whatever it was called. She was a host on America's Got Talent, or the host. She's been in tons of stuff. So in any case, super successful, right? And just looking at her chart, so her Mars is in domicile. Her Mars is very strong. And for any model, you want to check out Mars and Venus and the relationship. And so usually a lot of times for very beautiful women, then their Venus is going to be in a strong sign like Taurus, Libra, or Pisces, right? It's not here, it's in Capricorn. But Mars is still a physical, sexual planet for men and women. So Mars is very strong. Mars is square Venus, so it's, even though it's square, it's still in contact with Venus. It's still aspecting Venus, and Mars is in good dignity. Mars is also exalted in Capricorn, so Mars is bonifying this Venus, right? And then Mars is also bonifying the ascendant Lord Moon here. Chiron's giving her a very unique quality, making her just stand out above the rest, one of a kind, unique, and certainly not detracting from her looks or anything. I mean, even though Chiron is square the ascendant, it's not giving her a weird look, right? So if you're worried about that, I mean, here's evidence. It does not do that. She does have Moon opposite Pluto and Mars opposite Uranus. So, I mean, that's interesting. I don't know what that relates to other than explosiveness, especially in relationships, obsessive kind of relationships. Oppositions are always relational, especially to the Moon. But to any personal planet, it'll show up in different kinds of relationships. So there's something going on with her relationships that might be difficult. These are first-class malefics. Uranus is, I mean, this could be also abuse during childhood. It's being in the fourth house. I have to do a bit more research to confirm that. But yeah, Mars is in conjunct Mercury, but Mars is ruling Scorpio. So there's a bit of argumentativeness there, but probably resolves itself. Sun conjunct Neptune. Neptune is glamour, right? So for a model, that's excellent, right? Marilyn Monroe had Neptune right on the ascendant. So Sun conjunct Neptune, and Neptune trine the Moon. Moon is the ascendant lord, so that's excellent for model, for glamour. And then Sun is exalted in Aries, so Sun is bonifying these Aries planets and the MC. All right, so that's all very good and well. Well and good. Yeah, Jupiter is trining this Pluto, so maybe there's some good help coming from outside source in some place relating to her childhood. Somebody was helping her, protecting her, looking over her. And yeah, Pluto's making good aspect to this Neptune as well. But at the same time, she does have, I'm sure she has her mental issues with this opposition to Moon, but that's, everyone's got their challenges. But yeah, that's basically it. Mars is also ruling the 5th house, so entertainment, right, is very much up in her wheelhouse. Yeah, with an strong Aries MC, that she's great at starting new things, new projects, and that seems to be a lot of what she does. So, yeah, that's Tyra Banks. I don't want to take too long because these videos tend to get quite long, trying to break down each chart, but definitely unique, one of a kind. Certainly not a hindrance to have this Chiron. Makes her more creative and stand out above the rest. Right. I've heard people say like, "Oh, I have Chiron Conjunct MC. I must be a healer for a career." I mean, maybe, but it's certainly not necessary. You could be a lot of things, a lot of actors and creative types and people in showbiz and artists and stuff like that have that. All right, let's move on to Taurus. And we're going with a less well-known person, but equally important, in my opinion, anyway. Artist, Paul Klee. And he's really unique in his art. And if you go look at his art, you'll understand how chironic it is. I'm just going to, actually just want to pull it up just for a second. I'm going to pause. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just want to show you a few examples of Paul Klee, just to give you an idea of what this might look like with Chiron influencing the Mars. You can see it's very strange, right? But that's not one. But cool. I mean, I like it. I mean, if you appreciate art, it's very unique, very different, very weird, one of a kind, stands out, and that makes great art. That makes great creativity. Chiron is a blessing for artistic creativity, just because it's so unique, and just does not conform to any standards. It just wants to be, do its own weird little thing, and that's it. So, all right, just wanted to show you that. And then there's Mars and Taurus conjunct Neptune and Chiron. So Neptune also for creativity, Taurus, Venus creativity, Pluto also highly creative, right? And then Neptune trine Uranus. So again, the uniqueness, the independence, really enhanced. MC and Leo, Sun, Sag in the second. So a lot of second house relates to Tauri and like values, and so it still relates to that, the artistic expression, the body, the sensuality, the fullness. It's got a lot of weird, so like Sun in conjunct Pluto, so that's an interesting relationship. I would take it from Sun, and that's 6th house Pluto. There's two different in conjuncts. You can do like the 6th or the 8th coming from the personal, most personal planet you'd measure it from. So it's an unequal relationship, and this Pluto is sort of not in the 8th house position, so it's a 6. So it's an interesting Pluto, less dominant than it would be otherwise, but it's a very fighty, aggressive Pluto to his Sun. So yeah, he's facing some sort of challenge from others who want to fight him and try and dominate him, from coming from underneath, insecure somehow. And then Uranus and Saturn also have an inconjunct, and that's also from Saturn. Uranus is more of a 6th house inconjunct in Virgo, so this is also very fighty Uranus, competitive, challenging this Saturn, challenging his authority. He's meeting opposition from the public, criticism, really sharp criticism from the public somehow. He does have Venus on the ascendant, so he's Venus in Scorpio, very intense, dramatic sense of beauty and aesthetics, and very interesting. But Venus and Mars are in mutual reception, so that's quite good. Mars is the ascendant lord, and they're almost. I mean, Venus is more opposite Neptune, but it's still relating to Mars quite well. So that's really interesting. That's dynamic, unique, and relating to his art. Uranus square Mercury. So there's quite a bit of argumentation there, but Mercury is bonifying this Uranus as well, which is interesting because it's in Virgo and it's MC, so definitely helping out his career, this Mercury. Let me just check here. Oh yeah, Mars is station. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, very slow Mercury, stationary Mars, slow Saturn. Uranus seems quite slow as well. Yeah, definitely with Mars in Taurus, but stationary. That's really giving him a very refined sensibility to his art and ability to make art. It's quite strong there. Jupiter is also in Pisces in the 5th whole sign house, 4th quadrant. So yeah, pretty cool. But this Chiron is very much influencing his artistry and making it very unique, and definitely making him a standout artist, one of a kind, famous. As to who else has it in Taurus? Kanye West, Rami Malek, Amy Schumer, Ramana Maharshi. And if you don't know who he is, he's probably the most enlightened being to grace the planet in the past century, or one of them. Highly regarded, Buddha, Christ, guru. And then Gustav Eiffel, who was he made the Eiffel Tower, or his company did. So a designer, architect. And then Sunny Leone, and she was a porn actress. And then Jason Mraz, and he's a singer. So really, regardless of what kind of creative work you're involved in, this really helps you stand out and be unique. Mars and Chiron. All right, let's go to Gemini. And we're going to go with another painter. Another famous artist. Here we have Mars exactly conjunct Chiron. And you can look up Marc Chagall. I guess I don't feel like pulling his work up, but you get the idea. I just pulled up Paul Klee. So it's going to be weird. It's going to be unique. It's going to be individual. It's going to be expressive. It's just going to be one of a kind. And it's going to be like, wow, I never even thought of doing that, but it's interesting. And it works, kind of like that, something like that. That's what you'll say to yourself, maybe. Mars is his ascendant lord, but Jupiter is bonifying it. The signs aren't great for either. They have no real affinity. Mars is not doing anything for Libra. Jupiter's not doing anything for Gemini, but Jupiter is still Jupiter from the 12th is still good. 12th house creativity, and by degree it's excellent for bonifying this Mars and Chiron. Jupiter brings success, and it's in the 8th house, clearly in the 8th house. So something very deep is coming from Paul Klee. Very deep, very psychological, very sexual, very primal, raw, guttural, toothy, gritty, right? MC in Leo. Leo's in the sun's in the ninth, conjunct Saturn, but Saturn, it's not a very good dignity there. But actually Jupiter and Saturn have a mutual reception by square and by exaltation. So that's quite good as well, right? And that bonifies to Saturn and Jupiter. What else? South node moon in Aquarius, that's quite brilliant. South node moon, it definitely creates mental disturbance, especially when young, but when they're older, they become really, really sharp, even psychic. This is in the third house, third, fourth. So definitely very sharp and strong intuition. Moon opposite Mercury, so ability to express that heart, that moon. And then North Node in Leo, very expressive career and painting, skills of the hands. Saturn is ruling third house with this mutual reception. So interesting because Saturn is in detriment here, but it does have that connection to its exaltation. So it's mixed, you know, it's kind of like bad, good. Right? And then Venus, 0 degrees in debilitation, but conjunct the MC. Venus, the sign of creativity. So that's interesting. I wonder if there's anything gather from the sheets. Slow moon, Mercury, slow Jupiter. Let me check how slow Jupiter is. And then moon Saturn is the other mutual reception. So Saturn actually has two receptions, one from Jupiter, one from moon. And it is the third lord, so skills of the hands, drawing, whatnot. And it is quite interesting if a planet is in bad dignity, but it has some mutual receptions that bring it into good dignity. That's interesting, right? And art is nothing if not interesting. And that's one of the things that we look for in art. It's not necessarily like the most skilled drawer. That doesn't make great art. You have to study art to understand it. It's not about who can draw the best, because then you get illustrators who can draw, you know, fantastic, but they're not famous painters. They're not famous artists. Right. All right, so that's Marc Chagall, another highly expressive, famous artist. So Chiron, you know, doing great things. You know, Mars also ruling the 6th house, so his daily activity, his daily work. And Ascendant Lord. All right. So who else has it in Gemini? Benito Mussolini, the Italian dictator. Gal Gadot, she's the Israeli model. Rene Descartes, I think therefore I am. Lily Allen, Maria Sharapova, tennis player. Meek Mill, musician. Chris Christopherson, I guess he's a country singer or something like that. All right, let's go to Cancer. And we're gonna go to Chris Brown of musical fame, and also Rihanna's abusive ex-boyfriend, I guess. But he's extremely talented, and I've covered his chart before, but he's a good example of this. Extremely talented musically, but he's got this very violent Mars in Cancer, conjunct Chiron. But, you know, his Mars, even though it's in Cancer, you know, for artists, debilitated planets can work well because they're expressing the negativity, and negativity works well with the arts. So Chiron is still helping him stand out as far as his ability to, you know, Mars in the 12th would be more physical. So like this would be relating to his dancing, right? So I've never seen him dance, but I'm sure he's a very unique dancer. And maybe some people would say a good dancer. I don't know. But definitely a unique dancer. We could say with Chiron there, his dancing, his creativity, Mars is still in the 12th, so it's still influencing his creativity. It's enhancing that. It's adding an element. And with so many planets in good dignity, a planet in poor dignity is interesting, right? It adds drama. It adds uniqueness. So we got Venus and Moon in domicile and exaltation, bonifying the sun, Mercury in domicile, Jupiter in detriment, and then Mars in debility. Pluto in domicile, Pluto opposite the sun, so pretty destructive, especially in relationships, right? Also destructive early, abusive early childhood. I think I read that. Saturn also in Capricorn, so which is, so he's got like tons of, tons of, good talent and good dignity, good planets in dignity. He's quite explosive, especially verbally, with this Mercury conjunct Uranus. That's going to be pretty, mouthy, right? Yeah, definitely, definitely going to be hot, explosively verbal there. And Uranus is also opposite Chiron and Mars. So that's also very physically explosive. I mean, Mars is exalted in Capricorn, so it's very good for this Uranus. That's benefiting this Uranus, making him fifth house, sixth, so entertaining, hardworking. Well, the Saturn here is hardworking, but also creative, explosive, dynamic, unique, independent. Saturn. This is generational. Chiron opposite Saturn, and our generation, that generation, no, this is, I would say our generation. This happened for a long time, and it makes a lot of uniqueness. It influenced. It was basically, gosh, I don't even know when it started, but I have it. I mean, 70s through the 90s, I guess. Incredibly unique people, because Uranus and opposite Chiron, these are in aspect to each other. So, Uranus is a planet of independence, brilliance, uniqueness, social, political values, and awake, aware, enlightenment kind of. And then Chiron is even more unique, one of a kind, wounds, and rejection, but totally unique. And when it's generational, I mean, everyone in the generation can't be a reject, because then they are in a sense, but they stick together, I mean, but definitely very unique. Yeah, basically, extremely strong chart. Mars is ruling the 9th house and the 4th house, so definitely issues around childhood, but also wisdom, philosophy, higher knowledge, religion. I mean, 9th and the 12th is ostensibly quite good because of the Jupiter, spiritual quality, but there's issues there, definitely. And he's hot-headed, and he gets into trouble. So anyway, that's Chris Brown. Who else has it in Cancer? And you're going to see some interesting people in this list, because Mars is debilitating Cancer. But Travis Scott, we all know what happened at his concert. Stuart Sutcliffe, you probably never heard of him, but he was the 5th Beatle, one of the original Beatles, who got ousted from the band, and there were issues with him. Not exactly sure what. Tom Jones, Nancy Sinatra. Interestingly, that Mars, so when I think of Nancy Sinatra, obviously related to Frank Sinatra, his daughter, but her hit song, These Boots Were Made for Walking. So Mars is very physical, and boots would relate more to Pisces, Jupiter, but Mars still relates to the physicality of these boots are made for walking, and one of these days these boots are going to walk all over you. That's a little bit aggressive, right? Well, Mars in Cancer is aggressive. So just putting that out there. John Cocteau, who is a poet, playwright, novelist. And then Candace Owens. She's quite aggressive too. She's got a lot of Taurus, but also Mars in Cancer. And she's quite unique as well. Anyway, let's go to Leo. And we're going to go to another very interesting character. Mr. Beach Boy, Brian Wilson. So he's a little bit older for the boomer generation, but yeah, he's one of the main Beach Boy, singer, writer, and then he has something. I mean, he was hailed as a musical genius for the way he did the vocals and everything like that. He's got a very strong Gemini second house, so voice, Gemini, Gemini Mercury second house, so voice and Gemini, right? So brilliant vocals. That's what he's known for, and that's. I mean, look at how strong this is. Also, Venus in Taurus, conjunct the ascendant from the 12th. Highly creative, highly original, unique. Jupiter Cancer. I mean, loaded chart for music, for talent, for voice, right? And then Mars conjunct Pluto. Whoa. And then Chiron. That's in the 4th. So there's some issues around home, childhood. Definitely, it's quite aggressive, abusive, I would say, with the Pluto here. But very strong 4th house representation. And he's born in California, near the beach, and so Beach Boys, right? He's representing homeland, home turf, and that's 4th house. That's one of the things that you'll often see with a strong 4th house is that they want to represent their turf, their homeland. Right? You'll see with politicians, but people who just really all about the homeland. And then he also has the South Node in the 10th quadrant, 11th whole sign house, but so he dropped out from the scene because of mental health issues. And he's got his North Node conjunct Moon in Virgo, in the 4th quadrant, 4th, 5th. But and that's what happens. We saw the same thing with Lauryn Hill. Not mental health, but probably mental health was part of it. But anyway, it's not about mental health, really. It's about North Node in the 4th. And then his is conjunct his moon. So his mind, he's obsessed with his mind. Virgo's always like analytical, like hypochondriac, overthinking things, obsessed with health. So North Node conjunct moon is definitely going to be perpetually dissatisfied, obsessed with their, whatever sign. And so he wants to be at home, thinking about his mental health, right? Neptune is also in Virgo. So there's a bit of delusion, but highly creative. Neptune is trine the ascendant. So that's very, very good. And it is the 5th house cusp. So it's still leading into a lot of creativity. There's a square between, so the nodes in Saturn in Gemini, which is interesting, and it has triplicity rulership over Gemini. Saturn does, and conjunct Uranus, so a very unique Saturn. Very, it's a very Aquarian vibe here, very brilliant, right? Because Uranus and Saturn together in Gemini, so that's quite harmonious, right? Very unique. And it's something that he has to take on and develop. That's MC and 9th house. So it's career, public fame, notoriety, and as well as something 9th house, religion, philosophy, wisdom. So he's, definitely having to take on higher knowledge and well, he raised his music up to the high level, right? Beach Boys, as far as their quality, the level of craftsmanship, artistry was really excellent, right, for the time and everything like that. But back to Mars ruling the 7th and the 12th, so very creative, and also bringing in lots of people. The 7th house is making him, people will be drawn to his creations, his he's a founder of the Beach Boys. That's a Mars thing. Pluto is very sexual, very obsessive, very determined, right? And then Chiron is really just helping him stand out. and be very extremely unique from a young age. Right. So that's Brian Wilson. I don't see any. Let's see. Mercury's in Gemini. Let me check here. Mercury's retro, very slow Mercury. So that's. I mean, he is brilliant. He's brilliant. Yeah. And yeah, nothing else going on here majorly. Jupiter's in Cancer, so but the Mars is just very slightly retrograde and very slow. As slow, same speed as my sorry, not Mercury. I said Mars, I think. So same speed as mine, but retrograde. So he's brilliant. That's Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. And who else has it in Leo? Paul McCartney, born like right around the same time as Brian Wilson, like 2 days before or something like that. Harrison Ford, Haile Selassie, the emperor of Ethiopia. Ronnie James Dio, the heavy metal Dio band, and Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac. So a lot of musicians, and then an actor and an emperor. All right, let's go on to Virgo. And I'll just read these now. Post Malone, that crazy young rapper. I've never listened to a single song of Post Malone. I don't really, all those face tattoos, not really into it. John Holmes, who we're going to cover. I'm going to leave it at that. Larry Ellison, who is a billionaire, multi-billionaire, one of the richest people on earth. He's like a media mogul or something like that. And then Sam Elliott, the voice guy, cowboy voice. He's always doing the voiceovers. Anyway, let's go to John Holmes, just because he's interesting. John Holmes, if you don't know, is legendary porn actor who is also he lived a very messed up life, basically a criminal, drug addict, but his claim to fame was that he had the biggest penis in porn. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's real. I mean, it's true, right? Width and length. So that's his claim to fame. And we're talking about Mars here, right? Mars, male sexuality. Mars, Chiron, right? Okay. So his ascendant is Pisces. So we're looking at Jupiter. Jupiter's in Virgo. Mercury's in Virgo. So Mercury's bonifying this whole seventh whole sign house. Six moving into seventh, right? Mars conjunct Chiron and conjunct an exalted Mercury. And so it's interesting. Like I wouldn't, guess that this would lead to a huge penis. I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly what qualifies, maybe Jupiter being here and then would conjunct, widely conjunct the Mars, maybe Chiron. I don't know, but it is what it is, right? The Mars in the seventh. Mars conjunct the descendants, right? Mars and Chiron basically conjunct the descendant from the sixth house. But so from daily job, he's being Martian, Mars, sex, right? We'd also want to look at the eighth house lord, which is Venus. So Venus also in the sixth. So relating to sex, Venus in the sixth house, daily work. And he's done like tons and tons of porn, but it wasn't enough for him. Not only that, he's got his sun conjunct Pluto in Leo, so fifth house entertainment, right? Fame. Sun conjunct Pluto, highly destructive. Can be about, Pluto can go different directions. It can be all about power and control, right? Like you'll see this with like megalomaniacs, like really rich people who just want to control everything, dominate everything, like Bill Gates, George Soros, Klaus Schwab, that type of people, right? Or you'll see it in very destructive type people into drugs, sex, and alcohol, and crime. And he was involved in criminal activity as well. But you also see it in like astrologers, psychologists, scientists, things like that. So it can go different ways. So I don't want you to think, oh, I have Sun conjunct Pluto or whatever planet conjunct Pluto, and that's going to make me a criminal or sex addict or whatever. No, the choice is yours. You can do high or low. There's every planet has high or low expressions. Yeah, moon's in Aries, so Mars is dispositing the moon as well. Let's check here. Oh, basically everything's direct. So he's just a go with the flow type guy. He's just very easygoing. He didn't set out to be a porn star, but he just found out that he could do that. And then he's just basically, when everything's direct, there's no real resistance either. Maybe that works for some very evolved people, but I think if you're not very spiritually evolved and everything's direct, you're just going to be swept away with the tide because you have no internal resistance. Maybe with some squares that'll create some pushback, some fight. And here we have Mercury in Virgo, square Uranus in Gemini, and then Mercury's bonifying this Uranus, which is quite good for, third house is Uranus. That's quite, I would say that's quite brilliant, but I don't think he's using his brilliant talent or mind, to be honest with you. But it would be argumentative as well, right? Especially with Mercury close enough to Mars. But Mars Chiron definitely making him unique, right? One of a kind, stand out, different from the rest, and he certainly was. Neptune in the 7th is great for any sort of film, cinema, creativity. Not great for relationships unless you have like a mystic artist as a husband or wife or an actor and actress, but then you don't want them acting on you because anyway. Saturn in the 4th, so the early childhood. Saturn in Cancer, so not good dignity, right? Not aspected really, so definitely his early childhood growing up was definitely poor dignity, lack of discipline, or very poor quality discipline, maybe overly harsh in certain ways. So this sun is bonifying this moon because it's exaltation in Aries, so second house, helping out second house. So in any case, that is John Holmes, very unique, one of a kind for certain with his Mars, his very big Mars. Yes, very big Mars. Okay. So that is Leo, or that is Virgo, sorry. Libra, moving right along. We got Freddie Mercury, Kylie Jenner, Liz Green, the astrologer, Buster Keaton, famous actor, Tommy Lee Jones, Barry Gibb of the Bee Gees, Oliver Stone, and Keith Moon of The Who. So we're going to look at Oliver Stone, filmmaker. And this makes so much sense because Mars is about action. And what do they say when making films? Action. Right? So if you're a director, then you need good, strong Mars because you need to initiate. So Oliver Stone fulfills that requirement. And Chiron is great for anything creative, like I've said a billion times, because it's just so original, so unique, so out of the box. He's got a Scorpio ascendant, Venus in the 1st house. So again, so it's very intense, dramatic, sense of beauty, passion, depth. Venus and Scorpio is it's not easy because it's so obsessive, but it's very passionate because Venus is feminine, Scorpio is feminine, but it's ruled by Mars, right? So it's already, so Venus and Scorpio is very hot-blooded, right? It's like this obsessive sexual passion from Venus that's very feminine and sexy at the same time. Venus rules, it is a water triplicity lord, so it has some dignity, even though it's opposite its domicile. It does have some dignity in Scorpio. Moon's exalted in the 7th in Taurus, so that's quite good. North Node Uranus in Gemini in the 8th, so quite brilliant. His north node is exactly conjunct my sun, which is interesting. Same house, right? Same ascendant, basically. So I mean, this would be great for astrology. This here, I wonder if he's ever studied astrology. He'd probably be interested in it, at least open to it, because Uranus is the significator of astrology. But in any case, this is quite brilliant. Deep diving, exploring the caves, treasure hunting, right? Mining for gold, that sort of thing. So he's bringing in some, like, sex, violence, deep gritty backbone and teeth into his movies, war, violence, that sort of thing. And all of his movies definitely go there, right? They can be that deep and gritty and painful and violent. Uranus square the sun conjunct Mercury in Virgo, so exalted. Mercury ruling the 11th house, career success, bonifying the sun, which is the MC Lord, and Saturn and Pluto, so very intense, passionate. But Saturn in Leo can be very creative, but dogmatic and heavy-handed and just dictatorial. I mean, I basically have this combination too, not to out myself, but but it's even more so with Pluto here. Like he's there's some ego on this guy, and like he's basically has to call the shots and do not go against him, because he probably has a major temper and has to control everything, but he does a good job, so people let him, of course. And then the Mercury Sun square Uranus, that's going to be explosive, right? But again, very dramatic. But Mercury in Virgo, so great dignity here. Also domicile in Gemini, so it's bonifying this Uranus as well. So this is like a lot of tension, but that kind of resolves itself as well, right? And then huge 12th house, Neptune, Mercury, Mars, Chiron, Jupiter. My mouth sometimes moves faster than my brain, or my brain moves faster than my mouth, maybe both, I don't know. But in any case, 12th house for movies is perfect, right? Jupiter, Mars, Chiron, Libra, and then Venus in the first, so 12th lord in the first. It's all flying. Very unique, very interesting, and excellent for movies. Neptune for creativity, Chiron for that mythological, one of a kind, just completely breaking all stereotypes, and Jupiter for success and expansion and drama. It's all very, very good. Mars is also ruling the 6th house and the 12th, so that's great for behind the scenes, editorial, kind of hardworking, daily grind, daily work. He can make movies as his daily job, right? That's what 6th house generally brings to the table. That's pretty much it. I don't want to take too long with any of this, but incredible uniqueness. Definitely 12th house for movies is what you'd want to see. And Virgo for being, behind the scenes, directing, producing, even writing. That could all be possible. Although I think he's more of a director producer than a writer, but I don't know that much about him. All right. So that is Libra. Now we're going to move on to Scorpio. And in Scorpio, we have Olivia Newton-John, Joseph Goebbels, who is the propaganda leader, minister of the Nazi Party, right? And so Mars Chiron, right? And if it makes, I've already looked at his chart, that's why I didn't want to pull it up again. Otherwise, I would have. But it makes so much sense with Joseph Goebbels being the propaganda minister, especially with Mars being initiating action, Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio, Scorpio being all about control and domination, and then Chiron being so unique and original, right? And then George R.R. Martin, right, Mr. Game of Thrones, and then also Phil Hartman, the SNL fame comedian. But we're going to look at George R.R. Martin. George Railroad Martin. I don't know what the RR stands for, but it's kind of funny. And here's a fun fact. I've never seen a single episode of Game of Thrones. I completely missed the boat on that one, and I'm probably going to miss the boat forever because I don't really care. I don't really watch much TV. I don't. So it's gone. You know, I watch a movie with my son, but that's about it. I'm not going to get into a huge series, and I don't subscribe to HBO, so it's not going to happen. So George Railroad Martin and Game of Thrones. Sorry. All right. Let's see. Well, let's go right to Mars. He's got Mars and Scorpio conjunct South Node and Chiron in the sixth house. So for a series, the sixth house, yeah, that's definitely, you know, what we'd want to see, right? And then drama, Mars and Scorpio, sex and violence and passion and like, you know, just, and then Chiron is bringing in the mythology, you know, like just fantasy, dragons, werewolves, vampires. I'm not even saying that that's part of his whole thing. I'm just saying it's possible, right? Ghosts, goblins, demons, all of it, right? Big fancy thrones. And then speaking of thrones, fourth house, Pluto, Venus, Leo. Leo is the king, fourth house, of course, right? He's thinking about being on the throne at home, like land. Fourth house is land, right? Pluto wants to control. Venus is, you know, luxury. Leo is king. So, of course, he's thinking about thrones, right? He's got his sun and moon in conjunct by the degree. So that's quite intense, but sun is exalted in Aries. So sun is bonifying moon, but there's still competition here. And in conjuncts, like I said, these are not equal relationships. These are unequal relationships. They represent sixth and eighth house relationships. So for this, I would say, so sun is in the, it's in the sixth from the moon. Moon is more personal. So this is a very fighty, aggressive sun. But moon's in the eighth, and since they're both so, you know, such personal planets, such strong planets, I mean, moon's in the eighth, so this is a very dominant moon, right? This moon is kind of stronger than this sun because sun is bonifying the moon. Moon's in the eighth position, Scorpio position. Although the sun is in Virgo, so they're both quite strong. So it's a competition, right? And that's why he's, you know, he has this Game of Thrones, all right? And then we also see Mars in Scorpio and Venus in Leo. Mars is in stronger dignity here, conjunct the South Node and in Scorpio in domicile. But then again, Venus is conjunct Pluto, right? And Venus does well in the fourth house. So again, you're getting this square competition going on between Mars and Venus. Very dramatic, right? Jupiter is in Sag in the eighth house. So Jupiter also very strong competitor. You know, you're seeing kind of like this Game of Thrones in his chart, right? Jupiter's in Sag in the eighth house. So the eighth house is all about power, control, domination. Jupiter at home in Sagittarius, and Jupiter's kind of like a wizard, right? Jupiter's a guru. In Sagittarius, he's got wisdom. He's a, you know, kind of like an old teacher. He's like I was trying to think of the wizard in like so George R.R. Martin's compared to Tolkien. So bad with names. I remember astrology better than names. Anyway, he's compared to Tolkien, so the wizard in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings series. So that's like Jupiter in Jupiter and Sag in the eighth has that vibe to it, like a wizard, because it's a very magical Jupiter because he's now at home in the occult, right? So magic. So this is a very magical Jupiter, a wizard, powerful wizard is here. And so we got like the king on the throne, and then Saturn and Virgo, sextile Uranus. That's quite good too, this combination, because they're both 0, 0, 0, 0. So a lot of excitement here, being at the 0-degree mark. First day of school for Uranus and Saturn, both in harmony with each other, very Aquarian, relating to, you know, second, third relationship here with Uranus, and then fourth, fifth for Saturn. Anyway, it's just really interesting. I don't want to spend too long. Let me just pull up the sheets. All really direct, except, you know, Moon is a little bit slow, but Saturn and Mercury have a mutual reception. Wait, by exaltation, yeah. By exaltation, yeah. So that's really interesting and dynamic. There's a lot going on, a lot of very interesting combinations of things happening here. Venus is his ascendant lord. It's in the fourth in Leo, conjunct Pluto. So yeah, definitely he's thinking about being a king, being a ruler of a land, right? Because that's him. He's Venus, with the Venus in Leo, conjunct Pluto, wanting to rule all the land. He wants to rule all the land as the king. So that's George R.R. Martin. All right, let's move on to Sagittarius. We got Ben Franklin, Tom Petty, Fran Lebowitz. She was a writer. John Candy, he's a fat comedian who died. And then Nora Roberts, she was a romance writer. We're gonna look at Tom Petty. Very successful musician, singer-songwriter. A bit radio friendly for me. I mean, he's just like, I don't know, a little too easy. It's like, I'm gonna write a song, make $1 million, and we'll play it on the radio, and I'll be a big star. And who cares? I mean, sorry, but I mean, I just like my music to be a bit more raw and gritty and authentic and original. And he's just too. He's like, let's make easy money. So he did that, but very unique, very talented. I mean, so let's see. Mars is the ascendant lord. Mars in the Sag, conjunct Chiron in the ninth. And this combination is very much like that video where he's like the Mad Hatter and Alice in Wonderland. Because Sag is very adventurous, and Mars and Sag is very adventurous and very philosophical, but kind of crazy, especially with this Chiron. It's trine Pluto, so there's a lot of destructive potential, like drug abuse, but it's easygoing because of the trine, right? It's very successful, very no real resistance going on there. And then there's 2 sextiles to Neptune, and Mercury, and Venus in Libra, and then Sun in Libra. And then Sun and Venus and Libra together are very indulgent, right? Last Dance with Mary Jane, he liked to indulge. He liked to party, and he had no resistance to it. It was very easy for him. He wasn't like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. Now he's like, I should be doing this. Right? Like, let's write a song about it. We'll make $1 million, play it on the radio. Yeah. So, very talented, no doubt, right? But a lot of just easy money, easy success. Of course, there is some conflict, especially from his past, difficult upbringing. South Node, Saturn, Virgo, 6th house. That's pretty intense, right? So he had a little bit difficult early on, but then Jupiter is posited by Saturn. So but there's this strong in conjunct between Jupiter and Saturn. So like elders, I think like he had father issues or abuse from his father, something like that. Uranus in the fourth, so definitely trauma, square the ascendant, very rebellious. Definitely issues growing up, but then success later on. So there's some scars, some uneasiness about his early childhood, but then very creative as he got older. 12th house, Pisces, highly creative, moon in Pisces, activating this Jupiter in the 11th house, groups, bands, networks, career success. Yeah, but always this uneasiness with the early on, right? But very unique, talented. Yeah, nothing really bad to say. It's just not my level of, I don't know, authenticity, I guess you could say. I have a high bar for my musical taste. I don't really like radio friendly music. Capricorn. In Capricorn, we got Walt Disney, Jeff Goldblum, Roseanne Barr, David Lee Roth, Robert Benigni, and he was an Italian actor in I think it's either Life is Beautiful or yeah. It's like the he was like an Italian Jew in World War II, and then he had his son. Great movie. Any case, Joseph Smith, he started Mormonism. And Stevie Ray Vaughan, legendary guitar player from Austin, Texas. We're going to look at Roseanne Barr. Very controversial figure. Some people love her, some people don't. The wokesters tend not to like her so much. But her chart is so unique. I mean, it's just like all over the place. It's like good, bad, confusing. Yeah, just that. It's quite confusing, but there's a lot of good in it. And there's a lot of difficulty in it as well. All right, so Mars in Capricorn. So Mars is exalted in Capricorn. This is a strong Mars, right? This is a no-nonsense Mars, and it's in the 12th house, so good for creativity, good for camera, film, photography, movies, TV. Obviously for TV, we want to look at the 6th house, because that would be more like everyday recurring. Movies, more 12th house. TV is 6th house. And she had her show, Roseanne. I used to watch this show all the time when I was a kid, and then it got a reboot, and then it was like canceled like right away because of something she said. And I hate that. Some people are like, they lose their career right away as soon as the first offense, and other people, they can say like they can just get tons of second chances or third chances, fourth chances, whatever. So her moon, 6th moon in Gemini, some Aquarius ascendant, moon in Gemini, and then Saturn and Neptune in Libra. So she's got, I mean, it's not a grand air trine, but full air representation anyway, and very strong. So she's definitely very funny, great sense of humor, and there's two pretty good trines there. Between the air signs, moon in the 4th, so happy at home. Gemini, very nutty but funny and clever. And then so her show, 6th Lord in the 4th, was about her being at home, being a big fat funny mama. I'm not being derogatory or offensive. I like her things, so, but she's large woman. That's okay. Jupiter in Taurus, that definitely is going to add to her largesse. Jupiter in Taurus, loves food. And it's square the nose. So this Jupiter in Taurus in the 4th whole sign, but 3rd quadrant. So communication, homeland. I don't know. Well, yeah, homeland. I mean, she's a conservative patriot, right? That is a 4th house issue. Patriots love their homeland, and they want to protect their homeland. So that is something that she's very concerned about. Jupiter has a great trine to this Mars in Capricorn, so bonifying the Mars ruling her MC, so the careers, dispositing the Scorpio sun. Saturn's in exaltation here in the 9th house, and that's just generally quite good. Conjunct Neptune, so Saturn's her ascendant lord, so movies, film, creativity, cinema. Let's see what else. Mercury and Venus in the 10th. Mercury and Venus are quite good together. Yeah, Mars is ruling the MC and the 3rd, so career and communications, and just in the 12th house, so very creative, unique, standout type character for movie, behind the camera, TV, all that. North Node in the 1st, so Roseanne, she's a big name. She's always going to be a big name. She's going to be successful, even if she is canceled. She's still going to have her way, and you can see all the conflict in here as well, right? Moon opposite Mercury, but Mercury's ruling Gemini, so it's bonifying this moon, the 6th house. It's a lot of trines too, but then Mercury sesqui-square Uranus, so some disagreements, public and relating to her to enemies. 6th house, shocking kind of enemies. Maybe this is about her cancellation, public cancellation. Moon is sesqui-square Saturn, right, which is her ascendant lord. So some again, there's just a lot of tension going on. Yeah, Mars and Uranus opposition. Mars is not good in Cancer, so perhaps there's a sudden events relating to the 6th house. Canceled her TV show. In any case, South Node Pluto in the 7th, so in Leo. So she's going to be. She has a way of being, very controlling and powerful, but at the same time just kind of like nonchalant with the South Node, and destructive, right? Just saying things that just maybe rub people really the wrong way. In any case, that's Roseanne Barr. Let's move on to Aquarius, and in Aquarius we have Nicholas Copernicus. He was a famous astronomer, I guess, a scientist, perhaps. Alec Baldwin, we know about him. I would have done his chart, but there's no good birth time, because he just got convicted for involuntary manslaughter, and he's kind of a jerk. He's hot-headed. He punched somebody like over a parking space a while back. He's just a jerk. Like, he's just an arrogant jerk. In any case, Andy McDowell and Bob Saget. And Bob Saget's terrible too, but we'll look at his chart. Bob Saget got, violently murdered. He was beaten to death. He got they beat him to death with a baseball bat or something like that. And I don't know why, but I'll tell you, this is karma. There's some nasty stuff involved with him and those 2 young girls, the Olsen twins. He's a pervert and a pedophile. In any case, Scorpio ascendant. Saturn and Scorpio run the ascendant. That's heavy duty. That's dark. And if you listen to his comedy too, he comes across as like this, like innocent, funny guy, like he plays a dad in the TV show Full House, but man, he's so dirty. Like, listen to his comedy. He's so vulgar, so gross, right? South Node Mercury exact in Gemini. So yeah, he's a comedian. He's funny. 6th Lord in the 8th house, right? 8th house Venus, sesqui-square Mars. So this is intense. Mars is ascendant Lord. 3rd house Aquarius again, so comedy. Chiron, right? Chiron's stationary, so definitely unique. right? He can be a funny guy, but the problem is relationship between Mars and Venus. He's a man, so he's identifying with Mars in difficult aspect to Venus in Cancer in the 8th. Okay, so Venus in Cancer is a more feminine. So women, his relationship with women is sexual and not in a good way, right? Venus is ruling the 6th, so this also has to do with daily issues, you know, uh, 7th as well. So relationships, Mars also relates to children. It's just very uneasy knowing what I know. That he's made a lot of inappropriate comments about those 2 girls, and I don't know anything. I don't know, but I just know he's not, you know, he's not kosher. He's not safe, right? Jupiter conjunct Pluto. So Jupiter conjunct Pluto definitely believes in being like really powerful and dominating, because Jupiter's philosophy rules the higher mind, rules your beliefs. Jupiter and Pluto. This is a Bill Gates, George Soros combination. These are megalomaniacs. They believe in dominating power. They believe they can do whatever they want. They believe they're just superior to others. Look at all these squares, right? Squares and square and sesquisquare. Moon in Virgo. Moon ruling the 8th house. That's not in actors. I mean, that's a devious kind of combination, right? Because 8th Lord, what's he bringing into his career? Moon ruling the 8th, the sexuality. And listen to his stand-up comedy. It's as gross as can be. He's vulgar. And you know, a lot of comedians do this and they think it's hilarious, but comedy does not have to be that way. You don't have to make really gross, disgusting humor to make people laugh. Right. So that's not necessary. Like some people would be like, well, yeah, that's comedy. That's how you do it. No, that's not how you do it. That's just what's in vogue by sick people. Right. In any case, I mean, you know, he's obviously quite successful, but dirty guy. Yeah, and he has that Virgo kind of innocent demeanor. That's why he can play a father on a TV show, and he's really a perv. Gross. Venus in the 8th. That's something that's, especially with in conjunct to Mars, or a sesquisquare to Mars. That's bad. And this Chiron is definitely a unique, one of a kind stand-up comedian. Sure, he could be really funny. But Neptune in conjunct the Sun in the 7th, so he's quite duplicitous. I mean, because that's bringing out the dishonesty in Neptune, also square Uranus. Neptune square Uranus, so a bit crazy, nutty, because these two are just like, it's bringing out the kind of, you know, mental instability, insanity, drugs, alcohol, overstimulation, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that he was beat to death. You know, somebody was just like, look, you've crossed too many lines. We're getting revenge. You're a bad dude. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know what lines he crossed or who he pissed off or what he did to piss somebody off, but he definitely pissed somebody off, and he definitely is not a kosher, safe dude. Done some bad things. Very slow Mercury. So I'm not saying he's not smart. He's extremely intelligent, right? His Venus is way out of bounds. Okay. So I mean, his indulgence is extreme. And Chiron's station, that's very unique. Mars and Saturn are mutual reception. So, Mars and Saturn, yeah. Mars ruling 5th and 1st. 5th and 1st and the 3rd. 5th is children. One of the things, it's entertainment, but it's also children. So somebody who likes children, you'll see some 5th house relationships. Yeah. Gross. Very gross. They make it okay in Hollywood, all that stuff, all that perversion. They make it okay in Hollywood and politics and CEOs, all those rich people. They're just gross, gross, gross. Not all of them, obviously. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but a lot of them. Disgusting criminals, perverts, Satanists. Let's go to Pisces. Cindy Crawford, Juliette Binoche, Billie Holiday, Rob Lowe, Matthew Broderick, Rosie O'Donnell, Josh Brolin, and Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman's that they she's talking about Willis. He's a little black dude who was famous in the 80s for Different Strokes. So us Gen Xers know who Gary Coleman is. Let's go to Cindy Crawford. So even with models, even with looks, even with beauty, you're going to see it in the astrology chart. You're going to see their beauty. You're going to see their sexuality. That's going to come through. So first of all, tremendous grand water trine. She's very sexual. She's very sexy, right? So first of all, I would look to Venus, and surprisingly, Venus is not good dignity. I mean, it's okay, and so Venus has some. It has some dignity in Capricorn because it is a triplicity lord of earth signs. But she's very flirtatious and she loves money. She loves men with money. She loves people with money. Friends, women, men, relationships with. She loves success. So she's attracted to rich people with this combination. But Venus in Capricorn, that's not going to make a supermodel. But look at this tremendous Pisces stellium. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Chiron. And so Chiron's closer to Saturn, but you just got to go with, what you got. There weren't a lot of, this was the best one. Anyway, this is the one I chose. So Venus is exalted in Pisces. So that's first thing. Second of all, South Node conjunct Neptune in Scorpio. Neptune is glamour, right? And Scorpio is very sexy. And Neptune is trine the ascendant exact, right? 22. Neptune is conjunct the ascendant is what Marilyn Monroe had. And that's what made her, one of the things that made her extremely glamorous, right? So she got South Node. So when she's young, especially South Node, very glamorous, and combined with her ascendant Lord's moon's in Pisces. So very glamorous, very sensual. Neptune is the co-ruler of Pisces, right? So Pisces has that glamour as well. So that is that's all coming together. Also North Node and Taurus, right? That's beautiful. Then Venus is trine the North Node. Venus is trine both the nodes. So Venus is pulling in to this as well. Sextile the South Node. But mainly the South Node conjunct Neptune with a tremendous Pisces stellium. And then Mars is ruling the MC. Mars is not, there's no, this, let's see. Got Saturn. So there's a mixed reception between Saturn and Venus, also Mars and Venus, because Mars is exalted in Capricorn, Venus is exalted in Pisces. So there's that relationship. And let's see which planet. Yeah, so that's Mercury. It's sesqui square. Okay, so Venus is or semi-square Mercury. Sorry, long term. Guys, I don't know if you noticed, but I changed my wheel style. They have a wheel editor now. But yeah, that's basically what's going on there. Jupiter actually is bonifying this Chiron, Saturn, Mars from Gemini, because Jupiter rules Pisces. And Neptune is as well, right? And Chiron's just making her unique, one of a kind, irreplaceable, supermodel, Cindy Crawford. These pretty girls are a dime a dozen. Let's face it, there are a lot of pretty girls out there. You need, just like anything else, actor, actress, movie star, movie maker, artist, musician. You need to stand out from the crowd, right? You need to be unique. You need to have what they call the X factor. And Chiron often is that X factor, the thing that makes somebody just far more unique than the rest, and ability to stand out from the crowd. Sun is also square the nodes, out of sign, but still pretty tight. And so Sun is fame. Right. So Sun is fame and recognition. Sun is also exalted in Aries, so that's helpful as well. Yeah, so Jupiter's bonifying by a square, but still bonifying this ninth house, ninth whole sign house. And then there's this really intense opposition between Pluto and Uranus, and this is the 60s conjunction, Pluto and Uranus in Virgo, and it's in the third house. And so her relationships are going to be potentially abusive and shockingly abusive, potentially more perhaps verbally, because it's third house, and relating to Saturn and, well, Saturn, all of these planets, but Saturn, Mars. So there could be issues there. Definitely some unhealthy relationships she's getting into. Saturn's also ruling the 7th, right? So certain relation, and I don't know anything about her relationships, right? So I can't say, but definitely something going on there with her relationships. But Mercury is still within range of the opposition, and it's bonifying this third house. So, you know, it's not terrible, but still, she's probably attracting somewhat abusive men and gets into nasty arguments with them. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Well, no, that's not it. Moon, so Moon's the ascendant lord. So Sun and Moon are pulling in 8th house. It's not fully in the 8th house, but 8th, 9th. So definitely a lot of sex and sexuality. You know, more of this Scorpio vibe. Definitely very, very intense sexuality with Cindy Crawford. So occultism, mysticism, religion, philosophy as well. She's probably quite into spirituality, but definitely not an intellectual with Mercury in Aquarius or Pisces. Sorry. Venus is very slow. Okay, so Venus, very great sense of fashion, beauty, and money. Capricorn. Yeah. She loves her materialism. She loves successful people, and probably attracts very successful people to her. Jupiter looks quite slow. And so does Neptune. Jupiter is slow. Neptune's really slow. Neptune's practically stationary. Yeah, so her exotic kind of Neptunian sexiness, glamour is very, it's in the 5th house. It's exactly conjuncted, so that's really, really potent. South node, stationary Neptune, 5th house. Yeah, it's very potent. Yeah, extremely glamorous. And she did that whole Marilyn Monroe thing. She had those little dot like Marilyn Monroe had, and basically kind of copied her. So yeah, that's why she's a famous supermodel. Right? One of the most famous. In any case, that is Mars conjunct Chiron. Guys, I hope you found this interesting. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And that's how I know that you guys like it and appreciate it and want me to keep doing these by liking and commenting. And come to my class on January 29th. Just email me to get them on the list. It's going to be a presentation about retrogrades, all the different planets in retrogrades and what they mean and how to look at them. And book a reading with me. My website is macroastrology.com and my email is macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. So just get in touch with me there. And I will see you again soon. The next one will be Chiron conjunct. I already did Chiron conjunct Jupiter. So it'll be Chiron conjunct Saturn. All right. Stay tuned for that. All right. Bye.